Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great beginning to your new week out there. Here to bring you the latest information on multiple things in this morning's video. The first thing we'll discuss is what's going on with PTC 5, which stands for Potential Tropical Cyclone 5. Just some fancy terminology for a system that has a high probability to become our next named storm, which is the E name, Ernesto, and has a high probability to become a hurricane also. So what we'll do here is we'll discuss what's going on with the system right now very briefly out in the Atlantic. We'll give you the latest advisory information from the National Hurricane Center. We'll go over all the latest model information that we have from overnight into this morning. We'll talk about steering currents. We'll talk about the environment out ahead of this system that is going to promote this to intensify most likely into a very strong hurricane. How strong? Category 2, 3, which would make it a major hurricane. We're not quite sure, but there's going to be an opportunity for this to rapidly intensify at some point over the southwest Atlantic. So we'll speak on all that. After we get done doing all that, of course, I got you covered with what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48 for your Monday to kickstart that week for you guys. Timestamps will be placed throughout the entire video for you guys to utilize, and jump ahead to certain portions of the video that you want to pay attention to and watch more closely than others. But with all that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put those in the comments below. It gives me a chance to pray over them, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling this morning. So let's make sure this is going to work for us, and it is. So we're good to go. This is our potential tropical cyclone 5. I think that's just a little much, in my opinion, by the National Hurricane Center, but that is something they started doing a few years back, and they have stuck with it. So PTC 5, which basically means this is going to become a tropical storm sometime very soon, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but regardless, this is going to become our next named storm, and it is forecast to do so. So still a very broad, large, open wave. And I will tell you one thing, is this thing has not really got its act together over the last couple days. We were expecting at this point for it to be a little bit put together than what it is, but it's still not dealing with a great upper wind pattern, a favorable upper wind flow out here, as it's still kind of getting blasted, I would say, from east to west. There's not air that's being dispersed out away from the core of this system in all areas like it will be here in the next few days. It is on one side of the storm, but not on all areas of the storm, and I expect that to dramatically change over the next few days. So this thing is still struggling, as you can tell, indicated by the reds and the oranges and the blacks, or even some splotches of white embedded in the black. This indicates colder cloud tops, which tells us that we do have some taller, stronger updrafts. So we do have storm development. It's not like it's void of any kind of moisture or shower and storm activity. There's just nothing really, coming together. No defined area, low-level circulation right now. If there is, then it's really in the beginning stages of doing so. So that's good news, actually, for the Leeward Islands. Now, it could be bad news down the road, and I'll speak on that. I'm not saying that is bad news, but it could be. So I'll speak on that here in a second. But this is our tropical wave, still a very open wave. It's not even dubbed a depression right now, but that is expected to change probably sometime today or into tonight and maybe tomorrow. So that's what we got going on right here. We'll get this back off your screen and we'll keep rolling here. So the latest actual advisory from the National Hurricane Center, another advisory will drop in about an hour or so, but still says 5, which stands for Potential Tropical Cyclone 5. It's a 30-mile-per-hour potential system. Moving pretty quickly west at 25 miles per hour. So that's pretty quick for a tropical system, moving pretty fast out here. But it's 1,009 millibar. Be careful not to say 109 millibar. I've done that before. That would be like a category 20 hurricane. No such thing. I'm just joking. But 1,009 millibar pressure system. So it's not a big deal right now. Now, let's break down the cone here from the National Hurricane Center. And if you notice, this area of the screen's bright, and this area of the screen is dark. That is because the sun is coming up, and coming up on the entire Atlantic, and will begin to come up across the eastern U.S. over the next couple hours. But this is what we got going on right now. Center of this system is about right here. Forecast is strengthened a little bit by this afternoon to a 35 mile per hour potential tropical cyclone. And then by the time we get into tonight, forecast to become a tropical depression. So they're thinking by the time we get into tonight that this will have a defined low-level circulation, which would dub it a depression. Now, remember when we had a full-fledged tropical storm forecast to be going right through the Leeward Islands? It's not really the case anymore. It's saying now it's going to take till about 2 p.m. Tuesday for this to even strengthen into a tropical storm, which would make it have a name, which would be Ernesto. So we still have the tropical storm watches. Now, I expect tropical storm watches to be upgraded to warnings in these areas, which would show up in the blue probably sometime today, maybe in the next advisory here at 8 a.m. So if you're tuning in, it's like 9 to 10 a.m. Some of this info could change, but all of it's available to the public. This is on Zoom Earth, or literally just type in National Hurricane Center in your Google search bar or whatever search engine you're using, and you can get all this information. But I'm making this video as around 6:30 Eastern time. We still have tropical storm watches up for these areas. So Guadalupe, up here to Antigua and Barbuda, Anguilla, and all these areas right in here. If I mess up any of these names, I do apologize. I'm trying my best here. But Dominica, points south. You guys don't have tropical storm watches. That could change, especially if this remains weak and kind of takes a southerly track. We could get some tropical storm watches to get issued for Dominica. Martinique, I don't think so. And I think, I see a lot of comments from people tuning in for Barbados. And I appreciate y'all tuning in, by the way. But I really think this is going to slip north of you guys. Now, that doesn't mean that you guys aren't going to get any kind of gusty showers or storms or anything like that. You could get some rain for sure. And that includes St. Lucia, Martinique, and even down here a little bit further south. But for the most part, I don't think you guys are going to get huge impacts. I really don't. So we continue to look at this cone, and like you see right here, it's kind of scrawny right in this area where there is pretty high confidence it's going to go right through this area. So you got tropical storm watches up for all the British Virgin Islands, the Virgin Islands, and now the entire area of Puerto Rico. I want to watch Puerto Rico. Some model guidance is wanting to bring this system closer to you guys, even making direct landfall. So things, if you're tuning in from Puerto Rico, I would certainly tune in like crazy to the latest model information. I'm going to talk about why I'm a little bit more concerned about you guys than I was maybe last night. There has been some changes. But now this is forecast it's going to take all the way till 2 p.m., which is good, to become a tropical storm. A 65 mile per hour tropical storm is stronger. And now forecast to become a hurricane sometime 2 a.m. Thursday, category 1, 75 mile per hour hurricane. And I do want to watch my friends here in the Dominican Republic. This cone could shift a little bit further west, even the Turks and Caicos Islands. And then by the time we're at 2 a.m. Friday, this is a full-fledged 100 mile per hour category 2 hurricane, and we continue to move this further north. Bermuda is now in the cone, and is forecast around 2 a.m. Saturday to have a high-end category 2 hurricane just south of you guys. I don't know the answer, and by the way, thank you for the people that were saying hey from Bermuda that were tuning in. That means a lot, guys, so I appreciate y'all. But we don't know if this is going to make a direct landfall to you guys. I mean, of course, Bermuda is very small. I mean, you would need this thing to quite literally just completely go right towards you to obviously make a direct landfall. The center of the system would have to hit. It's not like Bermuda's the size of like Cuba or something like that, very long. It's very small. So, the chances of a direct impact, when I say direct impact, I mean the actual center of low pressure going right over this area, that would make a technical landfall into Bermuda, is obviously low, but it cannot be ruled out. But you guys are in the cone now, and, National Hurricane Center forecasting by this weekend to have a powerful hurricane just south of you guys. So that's the latest from the National Hurricane Center, kind of a detailed breakdown of the cone there. Now, a more traditional look from the National Hurricane Center with the graphic here. You guys are probably a little bit more used to seeing this, and of course, here it is. Now, to go over the latest model guidance. So let's break down the model guidance here. First thing we'll look at is the GFS, but it looks like that we're fully out enough to cover the entirety track of this run, so that's good. Seems like the GFS was running a little bit slower this morning, but maybe I'm just imagining things. But this morning, of course, it's initializing with PTC 5 right here, pretty much a tropical wave. And as we continue to move this forward here, it doesn't really have this organizing much over the next 24 hours. Brings some showers and storms into the Lesser Antilles. In fact, a little bit further south throughout tonight. I mean, you're already getting some storms, showers and storms moving in this morning into midday today, with the convection already very close by to these areas, these islands. But, the GFS continues to get this fully into the Eastern Caribbean. The actual, core of this storm, the actual low-level circulation, if there is one by tomorrow evening, actually slips into the Caribbean. And this will make it have an opportunity to really strengthen south of Puerto Rico if something like the GFS was to happen. But even for my friends tuning in from Puerto Rico, the GFS says, we're not going to strengthen this much between now and the next 48 hours. But this would bring more rain, shower, and storm activity to Puerto Rico. And, of course, the British Virgin Islands and the Virgin Islands, those folks too. But it actually has this strengthening, once again, kind of a similar run than maybe 24 to 48 hours ago. Has this strengthening into a tropical storm just south of the Dominican Republic, and actually makes a landfall over areas of extreme eastern Dominican Republic, Hispaniola, gets north of Hispaniola, might be close enough to bring some impacts to the Turks and Caicos Islands, but certainly moves well east of you guys, and really just takes a while to get going. This is definitely new information, and I will tell you, the longer it takes to get going in the shorter term, I think the more that this could drift a little bit west, which we really don't want to do. I think it's inevitable that this is going to strengthen into a potential powerful hurricane. I just think the weaker this stays for longer, the more it can slip a little bit further west. But we keep this going. We get into Friday morning. This is still a tropical storm. If you look at the National Hurricane Center forecast, it's saying this is already going to be a hurricane. But then it kind of gets pulled almost like due east to a hurricane, and it strengthens, gets yanked back north, almost north-northwest. And, by Sunday evening, we have a powerful major hurricane just east of Bermuda. But if you look at the run prior to this, it had the hurricane southwest of Bermuda. So that's a big switch up from the GFS run. And it's not enough for me to call it a trend. In fact, the GFS run last night was a bit alarming. But this is the latest one we got, and this continues to kind of move northeast. And we continue to move this a little bit further north. And does it get close to the northeast? It does not, it looks like. And it's going to creep up on your screen eventually. Actually, we don't even have the entire run. So that kind of stinks. So we'll actually have to go back to the OOZ. And it has this system much further west on the OOZ run. So this is getting into Tuesday morning. And, this system is a lot closer to like Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. In fact, it does go into southeast Newfoundland as a pretty strong storm system. Of course, by the time it's this far north, it will lose its tropical characteristics. Will probably be a post-tropical system, but would still be one heck of a powerful system that would bring significant impacts to Newfoundland. And this continues to race off. And look at that little bit of blue showing up in your map. You love to see it. You guys know I love my snow. But unfortunately, we do not have the entirety of this run. Let's see if we can switch it to, excuse me, guys, to this. Yeah, I mean, here's a broad look at it. This is the latest 06Z run. It has a hurricane way out here. So the latest GFS run is well east again. In fact, you look at for example, let's look at this. This is initializing for next Monday evening. That's a pretty significant shift east. But we're having some wild shifts as I think the models are still trying to figure out the steering currents of this system. So we continue to move forward and we look at the European model. And it's the same kind of deal. It takes a while to get this going. And the Euro has always been like that. So if this truly does take a while to get going, then that's a win for the Euro. The Euro wins as far as saying that this was going to stay weak for a little bit longer, because the Euro has been saying that for quite some time now. But just pretty much has an open tropical wave just rolling through the Leeward Islands. Wouldn't bring that big of impacts. Certainly some heavy rain, some gusty winds, but nothing too extreme, I would say. And then this gets north of Puerto Rico, begins to strengthen, does not take that southerly track that the GFS takes, and then begins to steadily strengthen. Still a tropical storm by Thursday morning, August the 15th. We take this into Friday morning. This is now probably a Category 1 hurricane, and then proceeds to strengthen this on approach to Bermuda, and does not make a direct landfall in Bermuda, but boy, it gets it close enough to hit Bermuda by probably some sort of eye wall with future Ernesto, and this looks like a Category 2 hurricane making an extremely close pass to the east to Bermuda. Okay, and then this continues to head north. What is it going to do after that? We kind of switch it to this, and here it comes showing up on your screen next Monday evening. Tells you how long we're going to be talking about this. And here it comes, and it has shifted a little bit further north and west on the Euro, but still not close enough to bring significant impacts, I don't think, to Newfoundland. You absolutely still need to watch this in Atlantic Canada, though. You really do. So you look at the icon model. Now, this is the latest one from this morning. We're actually going to have to jump back and look at the one from overnight because the 06Z and the 18Z icon typically only runs out to 120 hours. So same thing, guys. Icon has this as an open wave. It does slip it kind of south, just like the GFS, bringing those impacts to, the Lesser Antilles, the Leeward Islands, Puerto Rico, even definitely some gusty showers and storms, and maybe even tropical storm force conditions too, especially eastern sections of the Dominican Republic. Could slip it close enough to the Turks and Caicos Islands. I would still watch if you're tuning in from that area. Heck, I would still watch if you're in the Bahamas. But the latest run gets it very close to the Turks and Caicos Islands as a tropical storm. But I would say still far enough east to not bring significant impacts. And then this begins to turn north, strengthen like most model guidance shows, and takes this all the way to a 963 millibar major hurricane in the southwest Atlantic. And it looks like it's steadily moving closer to Bermuda. Now, you flip this and you look at the OOZ icon run here, and we'll get this going if we can. All right, here we go. And look how this is just wobbling north, almost north-northwest. This is like a Category 4 hurricane. And you're thinking, okay, you need to turn. And this is well west of Bermuda. I mean, it's almost close enough to the Outer Banks where you're getting some outer bands this coming Sunday. Am I buying this? No, I'm not right now, but I think it's worth showing. And you continue to move this forward here, and here's a view of the eastern U.S., and this thing is close. In fact, it gets close enough to Long Island, southern New England, to bring some outer bands. In fact, I mean, and it actually, this is as far out as we can go on the icon model. Only goes 1 week out, and it has a powerful hurricane right off the coast of like Martha's Vineyard, Cape Cod. I mean, right off the coast of southern New England. Next Monday morning, a week from today. So that's something we need to watch, guys, as we move forward. Now, we look at the European ensemble. All right, remember it makes up 51 members, and in this case, it puts it all on an output for us, a model output. So you're going to see a bunch of L's. Doesn't mean there's 51 hurricanes. It just means that it throws all the members, all 51 members, on the screen for us. So you notice a lot of these members have this heading towards Bermuda. But you notice some of them are racing off, finds a weakness very fast. A lot of these are strong hurricanes. But some of them kind of drift north, like these right here, not wanting to get booted out to sea as fast as these right here. And to keep this going here, and most of them do start to kind of take that north-northeast track. But you got some, it's hard to tell because they're kind of bunched up in these spaghetti lines right here. But some of these, oh, dang, my cursor is jacking up here. That's going to be an issue when we get to the steering curtains here. But right here in this area, some of them are getting kind of caught up here. And they're kind of getting tugged, I think, by an upper low feature that's kind of trying to yank this tropical system more north, maybe north-northwest, rather than just a clean escape out to sea. And to keep this going, and some of them do come up and hit Nova Scotia. None of the members actually hit Maine or anything like that, but there is some members that come up and hit Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, etc. So that's certainly something we need to watch and pay attention to, because I do cover the weather for Southeast Canada too. I got some loyal viewers up there. I appreciate y'all very much. And this is a system you absolutely need to watch. But none of the members go into the eastern U.S., so that's one positive right now. Now, speaking on the short-term impacts, guys, and this is the same information from last night. So if you notice, it says next update this morning, 12Z. So another update will probably come out here within an hour or two. But this is the information we have. Let's see if we got a new update. We don't. This is the information we have. So a good 100 to 150 millimeters of rain, 4 to 6 inches of rain throughout the Leeward Islands. Puerto Rico, a little bit more rain. I could see a little bit more heavy rain shifting into the Dominican Republic. Like in the next update, we could get some of this yellow that shifts into the Dominican Republic. But the dark green, that's 50 to 100 millimeters of rain, 2 to 4 inches. Kind of that shade of orange here. I mean, that's where you can get 6 to 8 inches of rain, maybe over 8 inches of rain. 150, 200 millimeters plus of rain. And of course, the rainfall goes up once you get up here. And then we're looking at winds. The chances of tropical storm force winds, 40 miles per hour or higher. It goes up more once you get into the Virgin and British Virgin Islands, and then Puerto Rico, where you do have that 30 to 40, maybe as much as 50% chance to see 40 mile per hour wind gusts or higher. And of course, this is getting extended into Bermuda now, where already you guys are in the path of winds. You got that 20 to 30% chance of tropical storm force winds. But it has decreased for the Leeward Islands just because they're thinking that this is going to take a little bit longer to really get its act together. And then we're looking at storm surge. As of now, 1 to 3 feet of storm surge possible across the British Virgin Islands and the Virgin Islands, and then especially the eastern sections of Puerto Rico and all these islands right into here. Could get that 1 to 3 feet of storm surge. So we'll definitely pay attention with that. Now, this is when we're probably going to have some issues explaining this, because it will no longer let me draw on the map. It does this every once in a while. It acts up. So we're just going to have to wing it, guys. So if you're tuning in for the first time, trust me, the presentation is not always this sloppy. Sometimes we have issues with how I can write on the screen here. But we'll keep this going. And one thing I will note is the reason this thing is struggling right now is because the upper wind pattern is not favorable. So what you're looking at here are winds at about 200 millibars, 35 to 40,000 feet up in the air. And, we look at this to really try to find shear if the atmosphere above this system is favorable for strengthening. So what we'll watch for here is, I think once this thing gets, even right here, I mean, as we're getting into Wednesday, I think the environment supports strengthening. I think this is just interacting with landmass of Hispaniola, the Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. So I think this is kind of preventing this from really strengthening or deepening. But as you can tell right here, it does strengthen another 5 millibars in about 5 to 6 hours here in areas of the Caribbean. Now, this L could very well be north of the Caribbean, the Southwest Atlantic, north of Puerto Rico, and stuff like that. But I'm just looking at, in this case, the GFS. If you notice, I'm going to try one more time. If you notice, come on. Nope, it just will not let me write on here. I do apologize, guys. That tears my nerves up when things mess up in the video, in the middle of the video like that. But it happens. Every video cannot be perfect. But so the people who are just listening or are trying to understand what I'm saying here, in the northern hemisphere, the rotation around this system flows cyclonically. So like this, I'm just going to do my cursor like this, right? You see these lines with kind of the arrowheads embedded into them right here. Hopefully you can see them pretty well. These lines kind of pushing out like this, and then like this, and then like that. And then the arrows are pointing, like this way, right? Well, this is air actually getting pushed out away from the system. This is allowing for more air to rise in that system. Then air gets dispersed outward, and then that allows for more air to rise, and that gets dispersed outward. So this is an environment right here where air is being pushed out away from the low to mid-level circulation in all levels of the atmosphere. And you would think, well, wouldn't that prevent it from strengthening because it messes up with the actual circulation of the system? It doesn't, because the actual low to mid-level circulation is still going cyclonically. It's just in a way above the system. It's almost going anticyclonically. And we call that a ULAC. And sometimes these tropical systems can be placed right under those, which stands for upper level anticyclone. So you keep this going, and that environment looks pretty well. Now, this system is going to deal with some sort of shear. For example, it almost looks like the system, if you look at these arrows right here that are pointing towards the L, it's dealing with a little bit of shear on the western side of the system right here. And I think maybe that's why it's turning a little bit weaker in the short and medium term. For example, a couple runs back, it had this as a 962 millibar major hurricane like 3 or 4 runs ago. Now in the same time frame, kind of the same area, just a tropical storm. And we got to watch a little bit of shear on the western side. You see how these arrows are pointing towards the system right here? I hate that I cannot draw on this. It is tearing my nerves up. I hope you guys are following along regardless. But you see how the arrows are pointing towards the system, but the arrows are pointing out away from the system, away from the L right here. Arrows being pushed out away from the system. So that tells me that on the western side, it might not be as favorable for as that intensification initially than maybe what the models were showing a couple runs ago. But that doesn't mean that's a forecast. It's just one model run. But it does intensify right into here as the environment might get a little bit more favorable and air continues to get pushed out away from this storm. We can call it divergence aloft, a nice outflow fanning of the upper wind pattern in this area. Now, using the arrows are very important in this area of the video. So, and drawing on this, and I'm not going to be able to draw on this. So I'm going to cut this a little bit short and kind of narrow down the information down a little bit more than I typically do. But that blue area down here, that is our tropical system. That's lower pressure. You see this blue area here, that is lower pressure. And then the orange area, that's high pressure. So our low pressure is down here. There's a weakness in this white area between this blob of blue here and this blob of blue right here, which is going to be Ernesto at some point. So the weaker this storm stays in the shorter term, the more it's going to drift towards the west. But eventually it is going to turn north because there's a wide open weakness right here in the white for this to turn north. And that's exactly what it does. It sniffs out that weakness in the pattern, and the flow around this low pressure goes just like this. Just like this. Come on. Work for me, work for me, work for me. Just like that. All right. I just need to quit trying, don't I? But that's our tropical system. This trough right here is picking up our system right here and is going to try to carry it out to sea. Now, it latches onto it right here, but at the same time, that little upper low feature weakens. And then all of a sudden, later this weekend, this once again, it's like deja vu, right? This system once again kind of just controls its own path. There's nothing pulling on it one way or the other. High pressure just a little bit too far north. High pressure over here just a little bit too far east. And then this new trough that I keep talking about that could influence the steering of this is just right now a little bit too far west. So nothing's really truly steering this. So just forward momentum and motion is just carrying this north because a stronger tropical system wants to go further north. So what's going to steer this at this point? Well, it's steering itself because it's such a powerful system. Now, this big trough diving down right here, this trough of low pressure, which the flow around this goes just like this. Just like this. If it can dive down a little bit more, or if this system is a little bit further west, it would latch onto this system and maybe pull it a little bit further to the west. On this particular run, that is not the case. And this just kind of gets lost in the ridge and then heads on out. So, that's something to watch. This trough, by the way, could bring a big cool down for the eastern U.S. We want to watch that, just for people tuning in from the U.S. or waiting for that back-breaking summer cold front. That might be it. We got to watch this for sure. But that's pretty much the steering currents. Folks, especially my new viewers that are tuning in, I do apologize. I couldn't draw on the screen for you. It's not always like that. This is definitely an anomaly video. Just my little cursor thing does that every once in a while. It's honestly my fault because it does it when I don't restart my computer from overnight. So shame on me for not being more prepared. But anyways, that's an update on the tropics. I think we really do need to watch this trough here. I mentioned it on social media last night that I think that it could have an influence on this system. And in fact, you look at, the OOZ model, and this system is a little bit further west. And boy, they are very close to connecting right here. That would help to sling the system a little bit closer, just a little bit further west. So something to watch. Now, as far as what's happening right now, we actually have a severe thunderstorm warning in North Carolina. It's a little surprising, but we got some energy flying through areas of North Carolina. We got a lot of rain across the middle of the country. Oklahoma City, I believe, broke a record for their most rainfall in August ever or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong for my folks in Oklahoma, but a lot of rain yesterday in Oklahoma. You guys just got a lot more rain this morning, it looks like. That is now cruising through eastern Oklahoma. We got a lot of rain activity in northern Missouri, Iowa, and it almost looks like we have a lake effect rain band coming off Lake Ontario right now to the Tuck Hill Plateau, and a little bit of shower activity in interior sections of the Northeast. And then we continue just to have a nice feed of moisture out west into the Rockies, so that's good to see. That's what's going on right now as far as watches, warnings, and advisories. Red flag warnings are indicated in the hot pink color, some fog, and that gray dense fog advisories, and then the heat advisories are in the orange, and they're scattered about throughout the southern plains, the coastal regions of Texas and southern Florida, northern Florida, coastal regions and southeastern sections of Georgia, and a couple counties in the low country of South Carolina. We continue to have flood watches up for North Carolina. We will have more showers and storms that will develop in that area again today. And that's why we do have a slight risk of excessive rainfall. So in the yellow area, that's where you have at least a 15% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance. This little pocket here too in eastern Oklahoma, and this area in eastern Colorado and western Kansas. Now, the chances of severe weather, we got a marginal risk in southeast North Carolina, and the PD, I would say more so the Grand Strand of South Carolina. A general risk of thunderstorms up here in New England. Marginal risk of severe weather, level 1 out of 5 for, areas of the Rockies. So I really think we're going to have widespread showers and storms, maybe even a little bit of a flooding risk across the Rockies today. And this is really driven off just some wind and hail. Not a big severe weather day by any means. We haven't had any really bad severe weather, I would say, in the last week or so. So it's been kind of quiet, which August typically can be very quiet as far as severe weather. But as far as the southeast today, we need to kind of storm activity. We are going to watch the leftover energy that kind of fades out in Missouri. But we are going to get another impulsive energy. There was a funny joke yesterday in my area here in Lexington, South Carolina, that we had a storm yesterday that packed more of a punch than the entire tropical system that Debbie brought. I just had to laugh because it was right. It was one heck of a storm here locally here in central South Carolina. But anyways, we're going to have another stormy day again in the Midlands of South Carolina to the eastern sections of South Carolina and eastern North Carolina. In fact, some of these could pose a bit of a flooding risk in these areas. So we got to watch for that. And just a showery type day in southern sections of Indiana, Illinois, and then eventually getting into Kentucky overnight tonight. Just some showers drifting on through. Not a big deal at all, but a closer look at these storms here in the Carolinas. Some of these could pack a punch, a marginal risk of severe weather. Just got to be careful with these storms. I think tomorrow could be a bigger severe weather day for the Carolinas, and we'll speak on that in the next video. But definitely got to watch for these storms. There is a severe weather risk with these storms. And then, with the precipitation value so high, these storms will have the opportunity to produce a lot of rain. Will dump a lot of water from the sky from these Columbia to Myrtle Beach, Florence, maybe down to Orangeburg this evening. Expect if there's no storms hitting your house, they'll be around, that's for sure. So definitely just some late summer storms out here. But we'll continue to move to the Northeast. It could be a stormy day for the Northeast, just depending on where you live, especially Vermont, New Hampshire, Mass, maybe down to Connecticut. Heck, maybe even some storms in northern New Jersey, a couple downpours in PA. But especially the interior sections of New England could get just some passing showers and downpours, maybe a storm, maybe some small hail with some of these. Not a big deal, just some flow coming out the northwest, out of Canada, into this area, So don't be surprised if you get a storm really anywhere in New England today. Not a big deal, no huge risk of severe weather. Now down here in the south central U.S., well, watch how this energy sort of dissipates throughout Missouri today, but it could make it all the way to Missouri or to the Boot Heel. Models could be underdoing it, but we do expect most of this to kind of dissipate. And then we will watch some powerful storms that can make their way into eastern Colorado, really develop into eastern Colorado into Oklahoma, into the panhandle of Texas. These could produce a lot of hail, very possible. And then this gets into western Kansas. Some big storms are possible there late tonight. We could do it all over again. We could have some sort of complex of showers and storms rumbling through southern Nebraska, throughout central and eastern Kansas tomorrow morning when we're waking up. So kind of a deja vu situation, but maybe a little bit further north than what we've seen the last couple of days. So getting up here into the Ohio Valley, the north central U.S., upper Midwest, waking up to very pleasant conditions. It's just one of your late summer cold fronts. It's very nice. Waking up to the 50s in a lot of Ohio and Indiana, Kentucky. You start to get into some more moist and warmer air once you get closer to St. Louis. But you head out into the open areas of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, all the way up into Michigan. And it's very nice conditions. Very jealous of you guys for sure. And we actually look at the upper Midwest here, and pleasant conditions up here. A touch of fall for sure in the air. So enjoy it. But as far as weather falling from the sky, there's not a whole lot going on today. Pretty quiet weather day. Could get some downpours into the southern half of Minnesota. Maybe some showers that could drift through Iowa, Illinois. And then we get into tomorrow morning. And just pretty quiet. Some storms will be rumbling through the state of Nebraska tomorrow morning. But outside of that, not a whole lot going on as far as falling from the sky. But up here in the Rockies, we're just going to get widespread showers and storms. I mean, we could get some storms up in Montana all the way down to the Four Corners states. Really right here in the central sections of the Rockies. I mean, central to northern to southern Rockies. The immediate western states, not as much rain today like Nevada, California, Oregon, and Washington. But even some showers or storms are possible in northern Washington state. But a lot of activity across these areas. It just depends on where you live. Definitely a steady flow across, especially like Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and etc. here. As far as how much rain could fall, south of Salt Lake City into northeastern Utah, central Utah could get an inch or so of rain. A lot of rain in this area. So be prepared for that. These are temperatures, the deep south, just still hanging on to summer, and you will for a while. I mean, for probably another month and a half at least. It's nicer up here in the Ohio Valley as far as highs today, 70s and 80s. The interior areas of the Northeast, New England, it'll be nice. It's just like a little touch of fall. It's coming for sure. And then out west, not too hot, not too cold anywhere. A little bit cooler in the Pacific Northwest, but all in all, the only places that are really hot is really the southern plains. And I mean, even the Southwest is not really that bad for this time of the year. So that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. Sorry about the cursor situation and the pauses throughout the video. Just still trying. I feel a lot better than what I did yesterday morning, but still trying to fight a little bit of a scratchy throat. And of course, I think everybody knows when you're fighting off a little cold or whatever it is, the scratchy throat tends to be a little bit worse right when you wake up in the morning. So I typically feel better in the evening than I do in the mornings. But anyways, appreciate the prayers with that. God bless all y'all. Have a great start to your week, and I'll talk to you again soon.